All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. I had to talk about this story. The members know that this was not the plan. My plan was to talk about something else. So I'm going to have to deal with that subject at a different time. This story actually surfaced a few minutes ago. You see here, October 19th, 4:19 p.m. Now, my time zone, it is 7 p.m. So just a few hours ago. And this took place in Utah. Shout out to everybody who's able to join me. Always a pleasure to chop it up with you all. Sandy, Utah. 5-year-old was taken to Children's Hospital because of injuries after a dog attacked him. All right. Now, whenever I read about these stories, I pay attention to the details. Was it provoked or was it unprovoked? Call that came about. 5-year-old boy was riding his bike. Now already you know he didn't provoke this dog. Riding a bike, especially a 5-year-old, they don't even ride a bike well enough to ride a bike and provoke a dog at the same time. Talking about a 5-year-old riding a bike, and his mother was watching him. And while the child was riding his bike, a husky, see, it's not a pit bull, a husky charged at him and started to attack. All right, let's pump the brakes. So this was unprovoked. As always, this is the pattern. Always unprovoked. Just like the most recent live stream I did about the attack in New York City. I believe it was Staten Island. Again, unprovoked. They're all unprovoked. The mother tried to kick the dog. The child suffered bites on his face and arms, and they had to fly him to a hospital. He had to be flown. How about that? Sandy Animal Services is investigating the incident. What is there to investigate? You know what they're doing? They're about to go ask the neighbors, the mailman, if they ever saw any aggression. If everyone says no, the dog lives. It may even stay with its owner. They bend over backwards to keep these things in society, even if they attack a child. Now, this has been one of the biggest talking points of my channel, that these attacks on children are unprovoked. And a lot of people don't understand why I say that. They automatically think that it's careless to say that. That some of these attacks have to be provoked. And I say no. The child has to be first exposed to the dog. Okay? The dog has to be inside the home. And you have to make that possible. Children shouldn't interact with dogs at all. Once you bring a dog inside the home, you can't blame a child for nothing. That's not a place for a dog. But you got these stories, and they come, it's like a cascade of stories of dog attacks. And you always hear the same pattern, unprovoked. And I'm saying that in the mind of a dog, children are prey. They lust after children's blood. Dogs are America's #1 child killer. They love very much to mutilate children. Just the mere sight of a child makes dogs want to attack them. If a child is moving, playing, the dog is even more eager to attack them. So what really triggers dogs is the sight of children minding their own business. Children not showing any attention to the dog. The biggest trigger for dogs is seeing children move. Y'all remember that dog ran across the street in that parking lot? That dog locked in on that child like a magnet. Ran around 2 adults to get to that child. I am telling you, dogs are very much attracted to toddlers, usually in motion, whether it be walking or playing or, of course, running. Now, I want to refresh your memory as I support that claim to this video right here. And I'm going to try to reiterate and re-explain and support my argument. Those of you who haven't seen this, brace yourself.
The goal of this exercise is there's about 17 dogs lined up. There's about 8 on each side of Angelo. And a lot of these dogs, what they do is whenever they see a fast-moving kid or even just a young kid, they're reactive. It could be as simple as breaking command to...
You hear what he said? Do you hear what this parasite just said?
Or even just a young kid. Do is whenever they see a fast-moving kid.
He said first, he said whenever the dogs see a fast-moving kid. And then he said,
or even just a young kid, they're reactive.
Or even when the dogs just see a young kid. He said the dogs are reactive. What is that supposed to mean? They're reactive. It suggests that already they're taking the blame off the dog. The dog only reacted because it saw your kid moving. It's the child's fault. But he said that these dogs are reactive. What he's saying is that they want to maul the child. They lock in on the child and want to maul them. That's what he's saying.
What they do is...
What else would the dog want to do with the child? What else could the dog want to do with the child? This is very dangerous.
Whenever they see a fast-moving kid or even just a young kid, they're reactive. It could be as simple as breaking command to staring to growling to lunging to try to bite.
And if y'all notice, these people holding these dogs, they're constantly jerking on the leash. That is their way of correcting the dog's behavior. So basically, let a child play in front of them, and the dogs get eager to maul the child, and they just stand there yanking on the collar, which is very stupid. Because let's say they do this for an hour, 2 hours, until the dog no longer reacts to the sight of the child. That does not mean that that dog will react like that every time it sees a child. Come tomorrow, when you're in a different setting, dog sees another child, attacks. This does nothing. The most it can do is to restrain or correct the dog in that moment. The most it can do is change the dog's behavior at that particular moment. According to the experts, dogs have a very short memory span. So come tomorrow, the mutt won't even remember this little training session, and it will attack. Now pay close attention to this.
Just a young kid.
I'm showing you. This is like overt proof that these attacks are unprovoked and that dogs are America's #1 child predators. Now look at how excited these mutts are and eager they are.
Kid, they're reactive. It could be as simple as breaking command, to staring, to growling, to lunging, to try to bite. So this is at one of my seminars in Providence, Rhode Island. And what the goal is, the dogs, all we need them to do is not care. That's it. So Angelo will do normal Angelo stuff.
The goal is to get the dogs to not care. Look at this dog right here. They're locked in on that child. He said the goal is to get them to not care. Okay, let's say you do that. That does not function like a computer programming, you fool. You big dummy. You might get the dog to behave as if it doesn't care when you got a shock collar on it and you got a person yanking on the leash. You big dummy. You should know that that is not even remotely close to some type of programming permanently. For you to expect these dogs to not react to any child that they see throughout their little worthless life, you have to be mentally ill yourself. You are not educated if you believe that. If the dog stops reacting, it is only because they're getting an electric shock and they got somebody yanking on their neck. This is so foolish.
And he's jumping over this little inflatable balloon here.
People, all of these dogs are locked in on that child. And the child is not running. The child is playing. All these things need to do is see a child moving.
This bone, and he spins around, and he talks, and I talk with him. And all the dogs need to do is just not respond.
Okay? So these things are so eager to maul children, they're just trying to get the dogs to not want to maul the child. Think about that now. They're trying to train the dogs to not want to maul the child. Y'all want to tell me attacks are provoked?
That's it. If they are
now, I want you to look at this black dog. Look at how often it's licking its lips. Don't they say that that's a sign that the dog wants to attack?
That's it. if they are in a down, if they are in a sit. I know you can't see a wide angle of this, but now the dog at the left just growls.
The child was playing. That dog growled. Why? Because the child provoked the dog? That's the narrative these nutters are putting out. That every time a dog attacks, and we've heard these experts say it, that it was provoked. Why would this worthless mutant growl at that child at all? It's because these are child predators. Dogs are child predators. They're America's #1 child killer. They thirst after children's blood.
If they are in a down, if they are...
And these inhumane nutters try to hide it.
In a sit. I know you can't see a wide angle of this, but now the dog at the left just growls.
It growled, and she had to yank it by the collar.
The owner pulled the dog back. Now what we're doing is we're setting this up. So instead of pulling the dog back, there has to be a punisher.
You see that? You see that black dog? Y'all trying to tell me this child is provoking these dogs? If these people wasn't holding these mutts, the child would be mauled by now. And you nutters would be sitting around saying the child must have done something.
Dog back. There has to be a punisher there.
That mutt got up and tried to attack that child. That black dog. For what? Is the child pulling on the dog's ears? Are you nutters? Get in here. Are you pit nutters? Are you worthless nutters? Out here co-signing this filthy, evil culture of blaming kids. It is these filthy, evil vermin, these monstrosities, as some of my colleagues like to refer to them as, and I like that word. It is these vile, sick, soulless beasts. They attack kids because they are evil, wicked beasts.
The owner pulled the dog back. Now what we're doing is we're setting this up.
Look at the lips. Look at the licking. The constant licking with that black dog. Showing you how eager this thing is to maul that child. And you sick nutters want to blame kids misbehaving every single time. I mean, every time there's an attack. That's what they say. They said it after those 2 babies were attacked. There are articles everywhere. One of them surfaced. I shared it in the members area, where even pit bull lovers had to come out and tell them to stop blaming the victims.
Hold the dog back. Now what we're doing is we're setting this up. So instead of pulling the dog back, there has to be a punisher there. The big misconception.
Look at this worthless, good-for-nothing vermin right here is very eager to maul that child.
Is that if you punish the dog, so watch what happens right now.
The child ain't even doing nothing.
Just jerk backwards, and that's because the dog did get a remote collar correction. And I'm explaining.
Okay, they got electric shock collars on as well, and they're shocking these dogs. This is so sick. So these people are fully aware of how much dogs want to kill kids. And they try their best to ignore it. Turn a blind eye.
That right now to the owner. There's a lot of misinformation that if you correct a dog for growling at a kid, it'll just go silent and all of a sudden bite without any warning. And I do address that in a video that's in this video coming up. So you'll be able to hear my thoughts on that.
Man, this is so sick. These people don't give a squat about their children's lives. This culture right here, all this does, this is their way of telling the world, of proving that they don't care about their kids' life. that they care about dogs more than they care about their children. All of them.
Now is you're going to see that spaniel that's lying down, staring with intensity. We call it loading.
He's talking about this brown dog right here, the spaniel. He said that dog is loading. Listen.
Now is you're going to see that spaniel that's lying down, staring with intensity. We call it loading at Angelo. And you're going to see the owner correct the dog right there.
Loading, preparing to attack. For what? For what, nutters? You always claim that the child did something to the dog. What is this child doing to these dogs, nutters? Yeah, this ain't the sweet, innocent pooch you like to talk about all the time. This is a evil, demonic child predator. Every last one of them. From the bully breed to the spaniel. They're just as bloodthirsty. One is just able to inflict far more damage. So this child is playing, and really it's light play. Barely moving. And these things are on edge, just itching to attack.
We call it loading at Angelo, and you're going to see the owner correct the dog right there. So that was a correction, not a super high level, but a high enough level that was uncomfortable to the dog. Now watch what happens next time Angelo jumps over. On its own, watch what the dog does. When it's not comfortable with Angelo, watch what choice it makes. Jumps, and the dog on its own.
It looked away. Well, guess what, nutter? That doesn't mean that you've permanently programmed that mutt. I showed that experiment where the guy left a treat on the table, and while he was in the room, the dogs, they would not eat the treat because they made it clear to the dog they don't want him to eat the treat. And as soon as they left the room, the dog ate it. So the same scenario here. While you're standing there with an electric shock and a collar on the mutt, and you yanking on it, pulling on it by the neck, yeah, it might look away. It might try its best to ignore the child in that situation. Stupid nutters. But for you to say that, oh, it's now trained, oh, now it'll never attack. Man, these people are so backwards. It's scary.
Moved back behind the owner. Now, that's what you want the dog to do. I really want to clear.
Shut up. Shut up. You filthy nutter. People, these people are absolute trash. That's just how it is. Anybody who's okay with having these things around children and living in the same house, are you out of your mind? You have to be a seriously trashy person, even if it's through ignorance. No, you all know the risk involved. You all know the risk involved. And you all take the chance anyways. Nobody's that stupid where you think, oh, there's no chance my dog will attack. So like I said, these people are backwards. They claim that kids always provoke dogs, when the truth is the exact opposite. Nikola Tesla left a very good comment on this subject. He said, between these two groups, dogs and children, it turns out that one of them actually does have sharp teeth that they use to send the other group to the hospital tens of thousands of times a year. And it also turns out that the other group doesn't. The children do not have sharp teeth. But as usual, they have to portray it like it's the other way around. Just so you know, this was in response to that video that I showed a few times where that cartoon, that animated video, a child walks in, they play the Jaws music, and child grows fangs and the dog attacks the child. It's in response to that. Said if you take the same Jaws theme and apply it to any of those videos where dogs attack children, like the video of the dog running across the street through the parking lot and latched on to that child, or the other video where the dog lurks up from behind the car and attacks the child on a bike. Remember that one where the cat jumped out, the viral video? The Jaws music would fit perfectly like a jigsaw piece in that scenario. It says everything these people say is a 180-degree inversion of reality. They go on and on about dogs being provoked when it never happens. Even based on their standards, it never happens. The most they can say is that the child went to pet the dog, went to hug the dog. Things that the adults teach the children to do. So this is a very sinister cult, and they deserve to be called out. They deserve to be exposed. They deserve to be ridiculed. It's bad enough that you expose children to these things. It's bad enough that you break the law and endanger them. But after the attack, for you nutters to actually blame the child and assume, because each and every one of you, you assume the child must have done something. I'm quite sure the child did something. When all the evidence and then some points towards the exact opposite. These kids are attacked when they are not doing anything to these mutants. These mutants simply are child predators. It's really as simple as that. Crazy stuff. I'm going to keep you all updated on the development of this story, if there is any, and talk about it with you live. My next stream, the stream that I had planned, I'm going to have to push that back till probably tomorrow. But I'm going to have to deal with these people who say that, oh, I can understand you want pit bulls banned, but for you to want all dogs to be banned, that's unreasonable. No, it's not. That's the very least that we can do to save ourselves and enhance the quality of our existence. Whether you love dogs or not, if we were to wipe all dogs off the face of the earth, it would enhance the quality of your entire existence on this earth. Nerves. You'll be less stressed. And you will be a whole lot healthier. My contempt for these grotesque mutants is not just based on attacks. It is also based on health. In case you haven't noticed, our health is being threatened and has been for at least the past 2 years, where the whole country was locked down. Your dog nastiness actually got that bad, where they had to tell everybody to stay inside of their homes, wear masks, don't get too close to people. The bulk of that nastiness is being reinforced and caused by dogs. And I hope you all are able to join me while we discuss that. Shout out to everybody able to join me for this live stream. And I hope to see you all on the next as we continue with this crusade.